Guess who is excited to share this whole process with you? Me, of course. So today I want to share with you guys the easiest way I created a fully lined skirt. Now this video has been broken down into bit by bit, step by step, for everyone to understand, especially the beginners. So yes, that is what this video is all about: how to create a fully lined skirt, long, short, midi, whatever it is. Don't forget to subscribe and also like this video. And if you have a question for more, go ahead and comment on the comment section and let's just get into it. The first thing I want you guys to know are the body measurements, of course, because this is for beginners. Okay, so you need your vertical measurements, which are your waist, your hip point, and your length. And also you need horizontal measurements, which is your round waist, your round hip, and your round base. Now, how do you fold your fabric? For beginners, I'm asking you, how do you fold? You go ahead and fold your fabric into two, okay? Right here on my cutting table, I have my damask fabric already cut out to the width and the length, and also my lining. And I'll be talking to you guys about the length and the width, okay? So this is going to be for my front, and let me show you guys the length. Now the length of my skirt is going to be 17 inches. That is how long I want it to be. You can make yours longer than this. You can make it shorter, but you can make it longer. Now the width of this skirt for me is my round hip divided by 4 plus 3.5 inches. Now go ahead and add that extra allowance because we are going to need it, okay? So this is how I did it. This is my round hip I'm taking right now. I'll divide whatever I get. I divide it by 4 and then I added 3.5 inches to that, and my width on the table here is 14 inches, which is all those things I just said. So please don't forget to recognize the wrong side of your fabric and mark your measurements on the wrong side. And now we're going to be marking 1.5 inches in on the back piece. So I just dropped the front piece aside, and this is going to be for my back piece. I'm going to mark 1.5 inch in, and that is going to be for the zip. So I decided to cut my front and my back piece to the same width and length because I just wanted to cut the both of them together. I want to show you guys how you can just use one stone to kill two birds. Yes. So this is going to be for my zip. I'm just going to rule a line to demarcate it from the rest, and then we're going to go into the next step. So this is for the zip. I'm just writing it so you don't forget. And now we're going to go ahead and place the front piece. You know the front piece I had before? I'll bring it back now and place it after that zip line. So yeah, this is the front piece. And I'm just going to place it after that zip line. That line I just indicated as my zip. I'll place this on it. And then I'm going to pin the both fabrics together because I want to mark my body measurements together. On both the back piece and the front piece, I want to mark it together. So this is how to do that and be safe, okay? So go ahead and pin your two pieces together, your front and your back piece, and make sure both fabrics are all folded into two, okay? Now the step 1 is for us to mark the vertical measurements, okay? That's your point. Now the first point is the waist. So this is going to be for my waist. I'll rule a line there so you understand that is going to be for my waist. I'm just going to try as much to label my all whatever I'm doing. I will label so you know, okay? So this is going to be for the waist, which is W. Now the next thing I'll do is for my waist. I'll place my tape and go down and mark my hip point, okay? Now see where my tape is on my body. That is where I want this skirt to sit as a high waist. I'm not going to be adding band, or the band I'll be adding is just like 1 inch or half an inch. It's not much. So I'm marking this as a high waist skirt, and I'm using 10 inches as my hip point. So go ahead and place your tape on the point where you want your skirt to sit because there is no band, and that is what we're going to be working with, okay? And then mark your hip points from there. So this is my hip point, and like I said, the length is the full fabric, 17 inches. I'm just going to rule a line to say this is my length. and L for length. Now the next step is for us to divide our measurements by 4. So all the measurements we just mark, we're just going to divide the horizontal, the round measurement of it, by 4 and mark. Okay, so the first is the waist. I'll divide my round waist by 4. You guys, the measurements are on the screen. Now see me mark my waist after the zip line. Okay, remember this is the front and the back piece together, and I have a line for the zip, so we're marking after that line. Now I have my waist divided by 4 marked from here to here. I'll move to my hip. I'll divide my round hip by 4 and mark this from that line here. You guys just remember after this line, okay? After the line, we're going in, okay? After the line, I went in, and after the line, I'll go in here. So I'll divide my round hip by 4 and I'll mark this on the hip line. And you can see the measurements are on the screen, so follow along what I'm dividing and what I'm taking, and just divide with me and mark your own measurement on your own fabric. What I have on my hip, I'm just going to mark that on the length. Okay, I marked 10.5 on my hip because that is my round hip divided by 4. I'll mark that same number on my length because this skirt is actually really short. So yeah, it doesn't matter, it's not going to affect. I'm just going to connect what I have on the hip now to the length with a straight line because they are two the same measurement, they are equal. So straight line here. Now before I connect the hip to the waist, I have to mark the waist dart. So I'm just going to add 1 inch on the waist for the dart. Okay, so I'm adding 1 extra inch on the waist for the dart. So this is where I'm starting from. I'll place my tape from where I have my 7.5. I'll add 1 inch like this, and this 1 inch is going to be for my dart. So we're going to be taking the darts after this, but before then, let's connect this to the hip. So I'll connect this to the hip. And you can see that my skirt curve is already looking correct and clean. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and mark the darts, and that's the front dart. So this is how I'll be marking my front darts. Okay, now while I'm marking my front dart, is when I take off the pin, I can mark my back dart. So for now, I'm marking my front dart. I'll divide what I have on my waist by 2. So I'm just practically finding the middle point on my waist. So I'll fold this into 2 to know the middle point. And you can see I placed my tape after the zip line, right? I just went in and divided by 2. And now from my waist to my hip, I'll divide what I have there 2 by 2. Like I'm finding the middle point from my waist point to my hip point. I'll divide it like this by 2. To know the middle point. Now I'll connect both middle points together. Now the middle point on my waist and then the middle point from my waist to my hip, I'll connect it like this, and that is where I'll be marking my dart. Okay, now on my waist here, I'll mark 1/2 inch in, 1/2 inch in. Okay, so this is 0.5. This is it on your tape. I'll mark 1/2 inch here and 1/2 inch on the other side. So this makes it 1 inch dart on the waist. I remember we'd already added that before we did this. Okay, so now connect those 1/2 inch down to the middle point here and then here. Okay, so please don't get confused. Remember, we already marked the 1 inch. We added it to the waist before we connected it to the hip, and now we came back to the middle point and we marked our darts. And that is basically it. Okay, so this is my waist dart for my front piece, and the next step is for us to add allowance and then cut. I'm just going to be adding 1 inch allowance to this. I feel like 1 inch is going to be enough. I'm not on the bigger side, so 1 inch is going to be enough for everything I need to do on this skirt, both for the lining, joining, and everything is just going to be enough. So I'll add 1 inch and I'll connect. So this is the allowance I'm adding on my own skirt. You can add how much you want to. Okay, so this is it, you guys. Let's go ahead and cut. Okay, we're going to be cutting. I remember, because we have the front and the back piece pinned together. What we just did now is both on the front and the back piece. So yeah, one stone, two birds, down, dead. We did it. So yeah, my front piece and my back piece is almost ready. Now all we have to do is adjust the zip, okay, and that is the next step. Now step 5 is for us to adjust the back zip allowance, and we're going to move over to the back piece. So this is where the back piece is. So what I will do is I will extend that hip line out to the zip, and now move over to the waist. I'll mark 1 inch out from the waist. Now we're adjusting the zip, okay? I'll mark 1 inch out on the waist like this. See what I'm doing? See how I'm marking it, okay? Don't get confused. I'll connect that 1 inch to the hip. What it means is that connecting the 1 inch I have on the waist to the 1.5 I have on the hip. You can see it's no longer straight, it's now a little bit curvy. And now on the hip, I'll go down by 5 inches. I'll just go down by 5 inches on the hip. And where I have that 5 inches sitting, I'll mark 1 inch also, okay? I'm just going to mark 1 inch just the way I did on the waist. I'll mark that 1 inch. The way we did on the waist, I'll mark that 1 inch, and I'll connect it to the hip. So the hip remains constant, and why the waist and this part is no longer constant, okay? They're like 1 inch, why the hip remain 1.5, okay? So I'll connect it like this. And you can see how curvy it looks, right? Now we can cut out the zip and we are almost done. We're just going to do like few adjustments by adding the back dart and then the front slope, okay? So go ahead and take off your pins, girl. You're done with this particular step. So I'll take out my pins to separate the front from the back so I can adjust my back and then later adjust my front. Now step 6 is for us to mark the back dart, and that's what I've been singing, that we need to mark the back dart. Now for the back dart, I'll place my tape and also find the middle point. I'll find the middle point on this. See my tape from after the zip, okay? After the zip line, always after the zip line. I'll fold my tape into 2, find the middle point. And now from the middle point, what I'll do is I'll just go down by 6 inches, okay? I'm not doing what I did before on the front. The back dart is a little bit longer than the front, so I'm just going to mark 6 inches down. And then I'll connect. We're going to be adding the same half inch we added on the front. So I'll go ahead and add ½ inch on each side of the middle point. So I'll go in ½ inch here, ½ inch here, and I'm just going to connect that ½ inch down to the 6 inches down, and we have created the back dart. Now we're done with the back. Make sure after creating your darts, you notch it on the fabric, okay? It is very important, okay? Notch it on the fabric so you can just show at the other side, because you know the other side doesn't have markings. So you need to have your darts on both sides. Just notch, very important. And step 7 is for me to show you guys what I have on the lining. Now make sure that your lining is a duplicate of what you have on your main pieces, okay? So this is for my back lining. What I'll do is duplicate my back piece on this back lining, and I'll place my back piece like this on the back lining. My lining here is already folded into 2, so I place it, pin both pieces together so I can trace out what I have on my back on the lining. You always make your lining a duplicate of what you have, okay? So that's what I'm doing. My lining is a duplicate of my back piece, and it's going to be the same for my front. Even though I will not show you guys what I did on my front, it's just the same process. Duplicate it, okay? Notch the dart. Now since we don't have the time to go start drawing out the dart on the lining, just notch it like this and you're good. Now the only difference we're going to be having on the linings is we're going to be reducing the lining by 1 inch on the length, okay? That is what I'll be doing. I'll reduce my length on the lining by 1 inch. Now this is going to give us that effect that we want, so that when we make this fully lined skirt, what we're going to be seeing is, you guys already saw the effect, okay? So that's what we're trying to create. We're going to reduce the length on the lining. So I just did that, and I'll just go ahead and cut off the 1 inch, and this is it for the back lining. Now you guys go ahead and repeat the same step on the front piece. Reduce the lining by 1 inch, trace what you have on the front piece on the lining, and yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you here. Repeat the same step on the front piece. Now step 8 is for us to mark the front slope. Now on the front piece, bring it back, we're not done. This is the front piece. I'm just going to mark 1 inch down. So I'll mark 1 inch down here, and this is from the center front of the skirt, okay? So 1 inch down. Now I'll connect that 1 inch, I'll just blend it to the side of the skirt. So I'll just take my ruler, my straight ruler, and just blend it to the side, okay? And we have created a slope. Is it called a slope? Yeah, a slope. I guess it's a slope, whatever, but I just created something, okay? And this is just going to help the skirt sit really well on my waist. So I took out 1 inch from the center front and I connected it to the side, and I'm cutting this out. Make sure what you just did here, make sure you do that on the lining. Now you guys, before we get into the sewing version, this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Now in case you're wondering, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes available online, and also they have new classes that launches every week, so there is always something new for you to discover. Now this particular community is just interested in making the creative life possible for everyone. This community is the great place for you to also get inspired as a designer, as an entrepreneur, as an illustrator, web developer, musician, content creator. Whatever your interest is right now, this community is a great place for you to get inspired, learn new skills, update your skills, and also put them to work. Now, so far, I have been learning a lot from Skillshare. You guys, I have been learning, and I'm so grateful, because the things I never knew that I was even interested in, I realized that I was, and I have been learning this on this platform. Now this community has given me the opportunity to learn hand sewing, I have learned iPhone photography, I have learned how to incorporate storytelling into my content, how to take pro lifestyle photos. I have been learning how to create engaging videos. You guys, whatever it is that is your interest right now, or you feel like in future you're going to be interested in, this is the right time and this is the right community for you to hop on, okay? Now something happened to me recently where I think I overworked myself, because I just realized I was doing too much work physically, mentally, you know, when trying to create new pattern. And when I'm cutting my fabrics and I'm trying to design, I stand a lot. I've been exhausting myself. And I decided to just go on Skillshare. I looked for a class on well-being, and I got a class that focuses on breathing for realization by Stephanie Iruvo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name very well, but she is grounded. She is brilliant with the things that she has taught. And I'm not just learning, I'm also practicing this thing, because when it comes to stuff like this, is you don't just learn, you practice also. So yeah, I've been practicing this. Now I know how to work and rest and breathe, take that time off to focus on my breathing, so I don't get exhausted when I'm done with my work. And I'm really, really grateful for Skillshare. You guys, right now, I just want to share this link with you guys. Skillshare has provided me with a link for the first 1,000 people that click on this link. You're going to be getting free 1 month trial. So go ahead and click on the link on my description box below that Skillshare has provided for the first 1,000 people that click on the link. You get 1 month free trial. And you guys, let's just get into the sewing version, okay? Now, for the sewing version, I hope you guys have your fabrics ready. You have your lining. I hope you have everything laid out, because now we're going to start sewing. Now the first thing we're going to sew on the main pieces and the lining is the darts. Okay, first step, these darts, we're going to go sew it. And for me to be able to see the dart on the other side of my front piece and also my back piece, I'm just making this small opening with my needle, and it's actually reflecting on the other side. So this is going to help me. It's going to help me know where to stop when I'm sewing my dart. Okay, so go ahead and do it. If it's going to be helpful to you, do it. Or if you need to use your chalk and just indicate the points, do that also. You can also do that. So yeah, I'm just sewing in the darts. Like I said, this is the first step to the sewing version. Sew in your dart. So for the darts not to loosen later, this is what I do. I just tie it like this, and then I'll cut out a little bit of excess, not all excess, just a little bit, and then we're done. So repeat this on the linings, the back piece, the front piece. Just repeat it on all the pieces. All the darts should be sewn in. Let's go into the next step. Now the step 2 is for me to sew 1 inch in on the zip allowance. Okay, so I'm going to be doing this on the main piece. This is the back piece. See the darts sewn in. I have ironed this. So this is where the zip is going to sit. Now what I'll do is I'll just sew 1 inch from the top waist to the length, including the hip. Okay, all of them, I'm just going to sew 1 inch straight down, and I'm sewing this from the wrong side. So yeah, this is done. I'll take this to my ironing table and iron this out. Now I have joined my 2 back pieces together, and you guys repeat the same thing on the back lining. Sew in 1 inch from the top of the fabric to the base. Okay, now step 3 is for me to sew the zip. Now before I sew my zip on the main piece, I'm just going to iron this down. Now why I am showing you guys how to sew in the zip now is this is like a different way of sewing in your zip, and you guys are going to love the finishing. Okay, so just stick with me. Make sure you iron, and from the top of your fabric, that's from your waist point, go down and mark where you want your zip to stop. And I'm doing this on the wrong side of my fabric. Now I went down by 8 inches, and that is where my zip will stop. Now what I'll do is I'll use my seam ripper and loosen from the top, that's the waist, down to the 8 inches. That is where the zip will be sitting. Okay, now let's go ahead and sew in the zip. Now this is my zip. This is the zip I'll be working with, and I'll show you guys how I'll be doing this. Now on the zip, mark 1 inch from the base of your zip. Mark 1 inch up. This is happening on your zip and on the wrong side. Now from the 1 inch, place that 1 inch on your 8 inches point, or wherever you decided that your zip will stop. Place that 1 inch there. Now what this means is that we have 1 inch before the stopping point of the zip. Now because I ironed my back before I loosened this, I have like a line indicating where I need to sew my zip. I'm just going to follow that line and sew the teeth of my zip to that line. Now see the line? This happened while we ironed. Okay, so we ironed and we loosened, but that line is still there. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the teeth of my zip. See the way I'm placing it on the line. At this point, if you're a beginner, you have to do this carefully. Now you have to carefully sew this like this. Carefully follow the line that you have on your skirt. Okay, on your fabric, follow that line and sew in your zip close to the teeth. Now you know we are sewing from the wrong side, right? Always on the wrong side. So this is how it looks. I'll go ahead and sew the other side like this. Now I'm just going to turn this to the waist, and I'll make sure that I also follow the line I have on the other side, this side here. See the line? It's very visible. So I'll follow the line and see the way I'm just placing my zip on the line, and I'm just sewing the teeth of the zip very close to that line. So once I'm done, I'll show you guys what I have here. So I'll be cutting out excess. You can see that the zip is long, okay? It's too long. Now, if you're using the short zip, you don't need to cut out excess. But for we that have the long zip, just go ahead and cut out excess, leaving like at least 1.5 inch, okay? So I zip this down, and we're going to go into the next step. Step 4 is for us to sew the back lining and the main piece together on the zip, only on the zip, and I will show you guys how. Now remember that we ironed the back, the main piece of the back. We ironed that zip side to have that line. Also do the same thing on your lining. Now see my lining, I already ironed, and I already loosened to that 8 inches point that I did on the main piece. Duplicate, always duplicate, okay? So what I'll do is I'll place my lining on the zip. So make sure that your fabric is sitting wrong side facing wrong side. Now you can see that the two wrong side is facing together. My lining right side is facing up. Now see what I'm trying to do. I'm just going to pick where the zip is sitting, and I'm just going to follow the same line I followed on the main piece, okay? And make sure that it is very close to the teeth of the zip, okay? To this teeth here, I'll make sure that the line I saw on the lining is going to be close to that teeth. So I'm going to sew. This is happening also on the wrong side of the lining. So I'm sewing on the wrong side of the lining, and I'm sewing very, very close to the line, okay? See? I just keep adjusting to make sure that I get that line. Now, as a beginner, you don't even need to force it. You don't need to make sure that it's really, really sit on that line. Just make sure it is actually close. You will see my result. My result wasn't that close, but at least it was a bit close, okay? So you guys see what I mean? See the results. Now, once you're done doing that, and you open this to the right side, this is what you should have. Now this is what my back piece, lining, and the main piece is looking like. See, this is where we sewed. See where I stopped, okay, at the zip, the 1 inch on the zip. Now the step 5 is for me to sew the main piece back and the front piece together, okay? The main piece, the front piece, main piece, the back piece, main piece. We're going to be joining it together. So this is my front piece. You can see the dart is sewn in, and I ironed, okay? Make sure you iron. It's going to make your work easier. So the right side of my front piece is facing me, and this is my back piece with the lining. Remember, we just finished sewing in the zip. So make sure that the right side of the front piece and the right side of the back piece sits together like this. And we're going to fold out the lining. Take it out like this. You know, we can't take it off because it's already sewn to the back piece, so I'm just going to fold it out like this. And before I join this, I'm just going to confirm my measurement, okay? I'll confirm my round waist, and I'll confirm my round hip. So my round waist divided by 2, because this right now is, we're just going to divide it into 2. We already folded this out into 2 pieces. So my round waist divided by 2 is 15. My round waist is 30. Divided by 2 is 15 inches. So I'll confirm 15 inches from here to here. I'll place the tape. And you can see this is 15 inches. I'll calculate what extra I have, because that's the extra I'll use to sew in my skirt. I have 2.5 inches excess. I'll divide the 2.5 inches by 2. And I'll mark this 1 1/4 on this side, and then on the other side, okay? This is what I'll be joining my skirts together with. So I'll do this here. I'll mark the 1 1/4, 1 inch and quarter here. Repeat the same step on the hip. Divide my round hip by 2. See the excess. I'll divide the excess by 2, and then I'll mark that on each side of the skirt, okay? So I'll mark this here. I'll mark it on the other side. I'll use my ruler to connect from the waist down to this hip here, and then to the length, okay? So whatever I have on the hip, I'll mark on the length. You guys remember, okay? I'll mark it on the length. Now this is what I'm going to use to join my skirts together. And you guys, what I'm sewing right now are the main pieces, okay? See, the lining is tucked in somewhere. It's just not together with what I'm about to do. I'm just going to sew my main piece, back piece, front piece together. Now that step I just took where I confirm my measurement is for you to know that you can always confirm your measurements before you sew in, okay? Before you sew anything in, confirm your measurements. Now the step 6 is for us to sew the front lining to the back lining, okay? And I will show you guys how I did this. So we just finished doing the main piece. We sewed the main piece together, and now we're going to sew the front lining and the back lining together. Now this is the back lining, and you can see that the right side is facing me, like it's just facing upwards, okay? This is the right side. Now this is my front lining. I'll place my front lining on the back lining, making sure the right side faces the right side, okay? So make sure you confirm that. Now you go ahead and tuck the main pieces away, just the way you did the lining when you were sewing the main piece. Do that on the main piece, fold that away, and let's go sew. So yeah, once I was done sewing, this is what I have. I have sewn the front piece lining and the back piece lining together, and now I'm just going to flip it to the right side like this. So remember I sewed on the wrong side, and to flip it to the right side, I'm just going to bring out the main piece like this, and voila, this is what we have. So this is what you should have if you follow the step just the way I did mine. And now step 7 is for us to sew in the base, okay? The lining and the main piece, we're going to be sewing in the base so we can have that clean finishing at the base, okay? So this is my front piece of the lining. I'm just indicating. So you guys, because I ironed my lining and my main piece, I have these lines indicating, okay, this is the middle point of my front, and that's the middle point of my lining. I'm just going to place both middle points together. And from the waist of my skirt, you can see between the lining and the main piece, I'm just going to bring it out like this and sew. Now if you need to pause this part, or you need to forward or take it back, or whatever you need to do to understand this, please do that, okay? What I did is place the both middle points together of my front lining, my front main piece, the middle points, and I brought it out from the waist where I have the lining and the main piece, the hole in between, or the space in between. I brought it out from there, and I'm sewing this round. Now if you do that step, you realize that you're sewing on the wrong side of the lining and the wrong side of the main piece, and why the right side is what is beneath it, okay? So do this round the length, sew this round the length, and I'm sewing by 1/2 inch, okay? And once I am done, this is what I have. I'm just going to flip it back from that waist part, that side that I flipped it to sew. I'm just going to flip it from that side out, this part here, the hole between the main piece and the lining at the waist, okay? Now you can see it looking like a balloon or something, okay? What we need to do now is go iron. So go and iron, and it's going to come out beautifully, okay? Go iron, okay? And that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to iron this, and you guys are already seeing what it looks like now. Because we reduced the lining length by 1 inch, you can see that the main piece is just poking out, okay? That is the reason. Now step 8 is for us to sew the band to the waistline, okay? Now this is the band I'm going to be using, and my band is 2 inches long. That's the length, and the width is my round waist plus 5 inches. So I just have extra, and if it's remaining, I'll cut it out, okay? Extra is always good. So what we're going to be doing on the skirt piece is fold this by 1/2 inch, fold this by 1/2 inch, and then fold it together like this. So let's just go do that. Let me not just waste your time. Now this is from the wrong side where I have my lining. That's where I'll start sewing from. And before I place the band, I'll make sure I have 1 inch out, okay? 1 inch out from the band before I start sewing, because we're going to be using that to just create like an overlap later, okay? Like an overlap hook, band for hook or something, like somewhere we're going to be adding hook to. And I'm just sewing this by 1/2 inch, that's 0.5 inch, and I'm sewing the band from the wrong side in case you're confused. So once I'm done, I'm going to flip it like this to the right side, but before then I'm just going to close the band by leaving just 1/2 inch. Okay, I'm cutting out the excess, but I'm closing it off. I'm just sewing it, or cut out the excess. I have 1/2 inch out before the skirt piece, so I'll flip it like this to the right side and top stitch on the main side, like the main piece. Okay, so I call this piping, but I don't know what it is called. Like, I just feel like I did not create like a full band for the skirts. I just piped the waistline, and I'm just going to fold this like top stitching way. I fold in 1/2 inch, and then I'm top stitching the band on the right side of my fabric. So where I'm sewing right now is the good side of my skirt piece. Okay, I'm sewing on the good side, and I'm top stitching the band, or I'm just piping the waistline. And you guys, this is how I created this particular fully lined skirt. Please let me know in the comment section if you find any parts very difficult. Let me know on the comment section. At this point, just go ahead and iron your skirt piece. You have done it. You have created a beautiful skirt piece. Let me know in the comment section if you find any parts not detailed. I'll go ahead and explain to you. But yeah, thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate each and every one of you. I'll be seeing you guys on my next video. I love you guys so much. Love and light to you wherever you are. I'm sending light always to you. Take care of yourself. Okay, bye for now.